Welcome to Real Shame. It's a twice a week, sometimes more show where we review movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
That's Andy. And earlier in the week, we reviewed the excellent movie, This is Spinal Tap. And we decided to pair that with another mockumentary, rapumentary, if you will.
Yeah.
And that movie is
CB4.
CB4.
Hey, welcome to Weird Warren's video countdown. Now, homeboys, homegirls, you know it ain't no need to be lax, because you got Weird Warren working wax. And of course, CD stacks, and most of all, video tracks. Now, CB4 is one of the hottest hip-hop groups to hit the scene in a long, long time. They come not out of Compton, not out of Oaktown, but out of a small town called Locash. That's right. And if you're in Sacramento, they roll into your town next week. But right now, let's bust straight out of Locash with CB4 on Weird Warren's video countdown.
So this is a movie also I haven't seen before. And have you seen it recently before this?
Not recently, but last time I saw it was probably when it came out. And I had the soundtrack to it on CD.
Did you really?
I did.
Interesting. Because when we talked about This is Spinal Tap, we talked about there being a lot of really good songs in there. But I think with CB4 they really only had the one song, because I feel like they played that over and over again. And they did do the cover of Rapper's Delight.
It was a simpler time back then, and there wasn't a lot of variety.
Yeah.
And I really loved Straight Outta Locash, the kind of the song that they play the most in this movie. So I pretty much just bought the CD based solely on the strength of that. Also at the time, this was right after like Dr. Dre's The Chronic came out, which I wore out. I used to listen to that, and I used to listen to Ice Cube's Death Certificate, and PM Dawn, even, because PM Dawn is almost kind of lightly lampooned in this movie. Just all kinds of stuff like that. Eazy-E, I listened to Eazy-E. Yeah. So, but yeah, Who's the Man? Who's the Man's a different movie. But I think I had the Who's the Man soundtrack as well. But I had the CB4 soundtrack. But I honestly, the only song I can remember from it is Straight Outta Locash. Yeah, because I thought that song was hilarious.
Yeah.
So.
Why'd you, like you said a little bit earlier, you paired it because it's another kind of rockumentary.
I wanted to do another kind of mockumentary kind of thing about music. And I don't know, CB4 was just the first movie that jumped out at me. I thought it would be nice to revisit it after all these years, because I liked it okay when it came out, but I forgot all about it. Like, I don't really remember anything about the movie itself other than, again, kind of the Straight Outta Locash that has Chris Rock in it. But other than that, I didn't remember much.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that like Phil Hartman was in it. And I had no idea who Charlie Murphy was at that time, because he had yet to do Chappelle's Show.
And that was something I was going to bring up a little bit later, but since you brought it up now, like, I never watched Chappelle's Show. So like, even now, I really don't know who Charlie Murphy is. And apparently he had a really big career. And I know like Kirby showed me some of the true Hollywood stories with Charlie Murphy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of aware of him. But man, he looks so much like his brother in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it is remarkable how much he looks like his younger brother.
He does. Well, I actually also never really watched Chappelle's Show, and I've always heard that shame on me for not. Yeah. But I've seen a lot of kind of the clips that Charlie Murphy is kind of famous for on that show, because they're unavoidable, and the the whole like Rick James and Prince stuff. Charlie Murphy, I think, had a hand in some of that kind of thing. So I'm aware of those. But yeah, his is not a career that I've followed very closely. So yeah, I was not all that aware of him, really until Chappelle's Show, even though I didn't watch it, and then that he's Eddie Murphy's brother. But this is it's more of a straightforward movie. For some reason, I thought it was more like This is Spinal Tap, in that I thought that the whole thing was kind of played out as like it's a real movie, but actually, if you're in on the joke, it's actually a fake documentary. But it's actually kind of a movie where you have a guy played by Chris Elliott who's playing a white character. Get it? A white. And he's making what he calls a rapumentary about his favorite rap group, which is, of course, CB4. That stands for Cell Block 4. Because they are in prison, or they're in jail or whatever, but that's where they get their name from. The three members of the group are Chris Rock as MC Gusto, and he stole the name Gusto from Charlie Murphy, and Charlie Murphy is trying to kill him the whole movie because of it. Yep. The next guy in the group is Dead Mike, or Euripides is his real name.
Yeah.
And then the third guy is Stab Master Arson. He's like their DJ guy. So it's those three guys. And the movie is clearly kind of making fun mostly of NWA.
Yep.
Because the NWA had Straight Outta Compton. They have Straight Out of Locash, which incidentally, one of the co-writers of the movie's last name is Locash. That's where they got that. His name is Robert Locash. But
Chris Rock's hairstyle looks very much aped from Eazy-E. In fact, Eazy-E has a cameo where he talks about it.
Yeah, and those cameos.
I love those cameos.
They interview people in the movie and ask them, or in his rapumentary, and ask them about what they think about the group, about
you have
CB4.
Ice-T, you have Ice Cube. You have a House of Pain. House of Pain. Like, how crazy is House of Pain?
A very, very thin Shaquille O'Neal is in this movie.
Yes.
He's almost unrecognizable. I mean, I remember, because I watched basketball back then. I remember him being a lot thinner than he is now, and then like he was when he was with the Lakers, but he's almost skinny.
You know who I think was unrecognizable?
Who?
Halle Berry.
She looks a lot different.
She looks a lot different.
She does.
I was just like, whoa, it's that Halle Berry. And I'm like, yeah, that looks like Halle Berry, but I would have known that was Halle Berry if it didn't tell me.
But yeah, as you mentioned, they briefly kind of interview a couple of members that were in NWA. They interview Ice Cube briefly. They interview Eazy-E. Unfortunately, they didn't talk to Dr. Dre or MC Yella. But anyway, it takes place in 1993. And the whole movie is kind of being recounted to Chris Elliott while they're stuck on the LA freeway. They're stuck in traffic. So Chris Rock is actually just telling him how the group came to be. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I got to ask you, what did you think of the movie? You've never seen it before.
Never seen it
before.
What
did you think of CB4?
I thought it was awesome. I had so much fun. I think this movie benefits a lot from Straight Outta Compton coming out like recently, right? Because you can definitely... I mean, I don't know if I would have saw this movie in '94 because I did listen to that kind of the rap music and stuff like that. Listen to Doggy Style and listen to The Chronic, like you said. I listened to that kind of music, and I listened to Eazy and NWA. But I don't think I was as familiar with what was going on with NWA's rise, especially with like doing the concert with playing the song "Fuck the Police" and them almost getting arrested for that. Like I wasn't aware of that, so seeing Straight Outta Compton, few years ago and having that semi-fresh in my mind and seeing this movie, you can definitely see like where the parallel is and where the parody is. And I think that benefited a lot. But this movie, I mean, I laughed a whole bunch, and this was definitely like a more elevated than This Is Spinal Tap. And I don't know if it's more clever than This Is Spinal Tap, but I definitely laughed out loud and guffawed a lot more during this movie than I did with This Is Spinal Tap.
I'm glad you liked it. When I sat down to watch it, I, again, didn't really remember much about it other than the song Straight Outta Locash. And so I didn't really know how I was going to feel about it. And I thought it was really funny. Yeah. Like, I saw it before, but it's been so long. It's like I've not ever seen it before. So I was really pleasantly surprised at just how much of that humor landed for me. I was laughing a lot. There's just a lot of things. Even after I watched the movie, the next day, I was giggling about lines from the movie. One of my favorites is when he comes home and he's got a house full of like relatives in there, and the little girl is like reading aloud, and the old grandma goes, "Shut up, girl! You think you're so smart just because you can read?" And the girl just kind of hangs her head in shame and walks away. I was like, it just comes out of nowhere. It has nothing to do with the plot, but it's little throwaway things like that are just hilarious in this movie. It's just funny. I mean, it's a very funny movie.
I think Charlie Murphy's awesome in this movie and funny, and he's very menacing.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's scary
as MC Gusto. And this movie, I like how they kind of like This Is Spinal Tap. They kind of go through the rap phases and stuff like that with their group. As before they become CB4, when they're trying to become rappers or hip hop artists and stuff like that.
Yeah, at one point they're like a Fat Boys clone.
Yes, and you saw the Fat Boys record at the beginning.
Yeah,
because I remember like Fat Boys doing the Beach Boy cover. Like that was the hit in my day.
That.
And
Wipe Out. Yeah,
and I just remember that so like that's crystallized in my memory so well. And then seeing them do the Fat Boys kind kind of parody. I was like, oh, I know what this is. This is awesome.
And then they kind of go through like a PM Dawn kind of phase. They have like the clothes kind of that PM Dawn wore and the kind of the hairstyles that PM Dawn wore. I thought the whole time he's drinking his 40s, it's tap, take a piss. I mean, it's just, again, it's kind of silly, raunchy kind of humor, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was really funny. I think I love Charlie Murphy in this movie, and like you said, he's actually pretty scary in this movie, even though it's a comedy. And I mean, he has some funny lines. I love when he's preparing for sex. He's riding the exercise bike. He's like lifting weights. He's like doing all this stuff like he's a boxer or something like that. That was really funny to me. My biggest problem with the movie, because again, I like it overall. I think it's very funny. I wish they would have done some more with Phil Hartman. Like when I saw that Phil Hartman was in the, because I'd forgotten that he was in the movie. When I saw that he was in the movie, I mean, I love Phil Hartman because he's awesome and he was taken from us too soon. I was like, oh, cool, Phil Hartman's in this. Like, what are they going to do with this character? He plays like a politician guy who's against, rap music, but he's got a little boy who loves it. Kind of like Chipper Gore. Yeah, like something like that. Exactly. No, you're exactly right. And I was really hoping that he would play maybe a bigger part in the movie. But then again, so you've got kind of two antagonists in this movie, one in Charlie Murphy and one with Phil Hartman. They spend a lot of time with Charlie Murphy. They don't spend very much time with Phil Hartman. That was my biggest chief complaint with this movie. I just wish they would have used him a little bit. Very well. Yeah, I wish they would have utilized him a little bit more. But other than that, it's funny.
I think they only played like one concert, which was the NWA-esque concert. Yeah. So I wish they kind of made parody of that a little bit more. Like they made it like how there's such this big thing, and we're gonna get the band back together. When he's like I'm sorry we had a fallout and all that kind of stuff. I wish they kind of been like, we only played one show. We didn't even play one show. We played like half a song. You know, like I think that would have been cool if they kind of dug into that. But I think Phil Hartman's kind of criminally underutilized in this movie.
He is, because he's a very gifted kind of comedic actor. You brought up the like their songs at their concert. They could have used more songs as well. Yeah. Like this Spinal Tap has quite a few songs. Sex Farm, Big Bottom, Flower, Listen to the Flower People, yada, 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 all that stuff. This one basically has Straight Outta Locash, Sweat From My Balls, and they do the cover of Rapper's Delight. Those are really the only three songs that they do. So really I only count two of those as actually original songs. I think the lyrics to Straight Outta Locash are funny. I wish that they would, and Sweat From My Balls
and they play Straight Outta Locash a lot.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem is they milked that song so much they could have utilized that time maybe to write another couple of songs to flesh it out a little bit more. Like this is an actual group that's got all these songs.
Or made it more like they can really only have one hit anyways.
Yeah, maybe.
They only have like one thing they can do, which is Straight Outta Locash,
But no, and I like so there's like a groupie played by Candy Alexander. I wrote her name down. Yeah, she plays Sissy. One night she has sex both with Chris Rock and with the kind of stockier, hunkier guy. Alan Payne is the actor's name. But it's funny because they make a lot of jokes about Chris Rock being so skinny in this movie. Like at one point, he's very skinny. At one point, they tell him, "Get your slim, fast ass back in there and apologize." I like that line. But I love on the night when this Candy or Sissy, plays Sissy is the character. Forget the actress; it doesn't matter. Sissy is going to have sex with both of these guys. The stockier guy carries her in and lays her on the bed, but she carries Chris Rock in because he's so scrawny.
My favorite one is when they're doing it outside
on the balcony.
Yeah, and then Chris Rock and her switch. Yes, that's from what she was
the dominant one, or whatever. And then eventually it just cuts, and he's just a mannequin, and she's just throwing around.
I love the cuts of the mannequin. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Yes, this is such a funny movie. The Wacky D guy, his family, everybody. So Wacky D is kind of a cross, I guess, between the CNC Music Factory guy and MC Hammer, with the pants. But Wacky D, he just has a song called "I Can Dance" or something like that, and that's pretty much the lyrics, right? He's just like, I can dance. Did I mention I can dance? Or whatever. But Chris Rock's family just eats it up. They're all like, "Hey, come look at the TV," and they're all like, "Oh, he can dance!" Yeah, they're just eating it up. He can't stand it. But yeah, it's just a lot of little things like that they lampoon. I feel like just land perfectly. The movie wasn't really critically well received, but really? I don't know what movie they were watching because this is a funny movie.
This movie's awesome.
It's a very, very funny movie. What else did I have about it? It was co-written by a guy named Nelson George. He's written a bunch of books. I was kind of vaguely aware of this guy. He's written a bunch of books. He's written books about Michael Jackson, James Brown, hip hop, Motown, Soul Train, all kinds of stuff. He hasn't really done a lot of other screenplays. and it was directed by a lady named Tamara Davis, who you can thank her for directing Billy Madison, if you like that movie.
Interesting.
And she also directed Half Baked, which I've never seen.
Oh, really?
I've never seen it.
Oh, interesting.
We're gonna watch that.
Yeah, we have to put that on.
And then you can also.
I'm not as like warm on Half Baked as everyone is. I think you have to be kind of a stoner to really love Half Baked, but
but it's still pretty funny.
It's worth seeing.
And then she did Crossroads with Britney Spears.
Whoa!
Well, and after that, she's pretty much just done TV. So I think she was relegated to the TV realm after she unleashed the abomination that is Crossroads.
And we kind of talked about this, but I was so excited when Tommy Davidson.
Yes.
Because I growing up, I never got into SNL the way a lot of people have SNL.
Yeah.
Like some people go through those phases where SNL is their jam, and I think everyone kind of does that where they have their favorite cast and their favorite like era of SNL. And I never really got into SNL. What I got into was In Living Color. I lived for In Living Color. I watched the crap out of that. I was all about the Wayans brothers and Jim Carrey, who was on In Living Color. Like that was my thing. And so, like, seeing Tommy Davidson in it was like, oh, my God. Like, I remember him from Living Color days. So, I was so excited to see him in this show.
Yeah, he's the video countdown guy or whatever that does some interviews with him. But, yeah, he's great. It's always nice to see him. There's a scene, if you do end up watching CB4, there is a scene after the end credits.
There is.
With Chris Rock in a character that he does called Cheap Pete. Which, if you've ever seen I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, which is another kind of parody, satire kind of movie that parodies the blaxploitation genre of the 1970s. And it's also a very funny movie. I haven't seen that in a long time. Probably should revisit it. He plays the same character in that. In both of them, he's kind of hounding poor Isaac Hayes, who played Chef on South Park and was also a great singer in his own right. He's hounding poor Isaac Hayes about in this he's asking him about a newspaper or something. I don't remember. But in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, he's asking him about buying some ribs and a soda
or a rib
or a rib. Yeah, but it's funny stuff. Chris Rock was done with SNL by the point that he did CB4, and apparently he did that Cheap Pete character on a few episodes of In Living Color.
But then In Living Color I know him from.
Yeah, In Living Color I think got the axe right after that, so he wasn't on it for very long. But obviously, I mean, Chris Rock is a friggin' household name.
Yeah.
He's been around for a long time, done a lot of stuff. The other two guys, not so much. The Dead Mike guy, again, his name is Alan Payne. He had a little bit of a career in the 90s. He still acts today, but he's just not doing quite as well as Chris Rock. But then none of us are. So, but anyway, 55% fresh. I mean, that's kind of weak to me, but 62% audience score, 2 thumbs down.
Whoa, guys!
Siskel and Ebert, and I watched their review, and they were not kind. They really complained. When I watched it, I felt like they were just like two old fogies who just didn't get the joke.
And there might
be.
I love
Siskel and Ebert, but I felt like that.
And it might be one of those things where nostalgia falls into it too, like
maybe
like knowing of that era and reminiscing on that era probably helped the movie a lot. And like I said, I think having Straight Outta Compton and like the modern film language helps a whole lot because that you know exactly what they're parodying and where they're pulling that from.
Yeah, true. But yeah, they gave it 2 thumbs down, and Leonard Maltin only gave it 2 stars.
Yeah.
Again, Leonard's a tough critic. He's hard to please.
He's hard.
But he did give. Last time I talked about I watched all the Bond movies. He gave Skyfall 4 stars.
Wow.
I wouldn't rate it that high. I thought it was good. I wouldn't rate it that high. But that's.
I
Leonard
remember
Maltin
everyone being super high on Skyfall. The song, being very well, and Roger Deakins was the cinematographer, and I think he won his Academy Award for that.
He was.
I agree with you. I think the best of the Daniel Craig Bond movies is Casino Royale. And they kind of dropped off since then. Who do you think is the best Daniel Craig Bond? Kirby?
The best Bond or the best
Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig Bond?
Yeah.
I love Skyfall. I'm like the only person on the planet.
Is it 4 stars? Is it a 4-star movie? Leonard Maltin gave it 4 stars.
I think it was wonderful.
I
do like Casino Royale a lot, but like Skyfall just.
So for me, Skyfall is the beginning of bringing Bond back to his roots. A lot of the movie is about him going back to the roots. In fact, the third act, he goes back to Skyfall where he grew up and stuff, but he also gets the old Aston Martin and stuff. And for me, that's like, I don't know if I conflate it with what happens to him later on, but it's like the beginning of the end for me, where I was all about the Bourne, Bond, everything being realistic, not a lot of gadgets. And then this one was like, okay, we're going to start giving him back his gadgets and gizmos and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, anyways, we got a little off track there with Vaughn. Sorry, that was my fault. I brought up the old Leonard Maltin giving Skyfall 4 stars. But
that's cool.
Do you have anything else you want to add about Cell Block 4, CB4?
No, I think CB4 is awesome. I would pair this with this is Spinal Tap, great pairing, but I also pair it with, like I said, Straight Outta Compton. I think those two are excellent together, and it would be worth your while. So if you have, I remember, again, this is all along the lines of this is Spinal Tap, is I remember seeing the box art of it when I worked at the video store, and I thought it was a real documentary.
Yeah.
But, obviously it's not, but it's awesome.
I would say another thing before we get into the viewer question, another thing you could pair it with, and I'd completely forgotten about this movie. This is another one that I probably saw, I did see back around the same time CB4 came out. It came out a year later. Same kind of thing. It's a mockumentary about rap. It's called Fear of a Black Hat. So that's another one you could seek out. I seem to remember it being funny, but just been so long, I remember almost nothing about it. So I'd be interested to see that again. All right. That was CB4. Check it out if you get a chance. If you haven't seen it, it's a funny movie. So the viewer question this time, music related, since we have talked about this is Spinal Tap and CB4 these last 2 episodes, and they both, albeit it's fake music, but this one is still music related. Obviously, you have musicians that turn into actors and actresses. So really the question is, it doesn't have to be your favorite musician turned actor or actress, but who are some kind of notable people that their primary job, or at least their first job, was as a music maker, musician, and now they're either doing acting full time, or they moonlight in acting. Maybe they still do music at the same time, but they're primarily known as musicians, then actors or actresses. So who are some good ones, do you think?
So when we're thinking about this,
I wrote
think
a list
the
down,
big one that popped in my head was probably Lady Gaga. And that's very recent. I think she did. I don't know if she's done anything other than A Star Is Born, but she was pretty. I don't know either. She's pretty excellent in A Star Is Born.
Yeah, she's great in A Star Is Born. I agree.
And I think the other big one that's like modern is Justin Timberlake. I think he still does music. I mean, he did music for the Troll movie, and then he had an album like The Tennessee Kid or something like that came out before that. But he's been in The Social Network. He was in Lords of Dogtown, or no, the movie that was the Lords of Dogtown.
No,
something.
Alpha Dog.
Right,
Alpha Dog.
Maybe I don't
see when you said Justin Timberlake, I actually completely forgot that he acted at all, because when you said that, I was like, I know he acts, but what movies is he's in? But I completely forgot he's in like Social Network.
Lords of Dogtown, Social Network, Troll movie.
Yeah.
So he's done a bunch of acting. So those are like the 2 kind of modern people that kind of pop in my head. What about you?
So I think I wrote a long list down, not because I want to name all these people. I was just trying to get a sense of because again, when you were asked this question, I had a few people that came to mind immediately, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't kind of leave anybody out. But one of the first people, and you pointed him out to me actually, one of the first people to kind of do this, to be a musician and then turn into acting, was Elvis Presley.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I've only seen maybe 2 Elvis Presley movies. I've seen
0.
Well, I've seen Heartbreak Hotel. And I've probably seen maybe like one other that I can't think of the name of. And I mean, Heartbreak Hotel is good, but he's very much a musician. I mean, he's not the greatest actor in the world. I don't think anybody ever thought he was that great at acting, but he was just such a huge star and such a huge personality. Nobody gave a damn whether he could act or not. They just wanted to see him in movies, just get more exposure to Elvis Presley.
I'm sure that was the only way you can kind of see him, because, you didn't have, you had him on the Ed Sullivan Show, but, there was not like YouTube where you can watch a music video and stuff like that. Like maybe movies were the way to kind of see Elvis larger in life.
You brought up Mark Wahlberg, who I mean, I don't know if I would qualify him as that great of a musician anyway. I mean, the only thing I remember
Mark and the Funky Bunch.
No, I agree he was a musician first, but it's like I think we're using the term musician loosely, because I'm saying that as a dig at his musical talent.
You got the power.
Yes, yeah. No, well, the music he does in Boogie Nights is amazing, but no, I like Mark Wahlberg just fine. I don't think he's a great actor. I think he's great in Boogie Nights because I feel like he fits that role kind of as this clueless guy.
Have you seen Payne and Gain?
I have, yeah. I
think he's good in Payne and Gain. And that's like,
I mean, he's improved for sure over time. I agree. Yeah, Payne and Gain, that's a good example.
You don't like him as Cade in the Transformers series?
Man, I didn't see. I only saw the first Transformers movie.
I think his name is Cade.
I don't think he's in that one. And then another big example would be Madonna. Yeah. I forgot all about her. Of course, she did a lot of movies. You know, she did movies with Sean Penn when she was married to him at the time. She's actually in the Die Another Day Bond movie very briefly. She does the theme song, and she's very briefly in like the fencing scene.
She's in the
So it's like, what the hell? And then of course, Dolly Parton. We've already reviewed Steel Magnolias. Dolly Parton's in that. She's in some other stuff. She's a nice, cute little old lady. Not old lady, sorry. She's a nice, cute little lady. Not gonna say she's old at all. Mandy Moore is another person.
I think Mandy Moore's a big one.
Yeah, and she's pretty good. I would say she's a pretty good actress. She's on This Is Us now, which I've never seen a single episode of.
Tangled, which you haven't seen.
Tangled.
Yeah, I think she's pretty much left her music career behind.
David Bowie was in Labyrinth. We mentioned him a little bit when we talked about Jennifer Connelly's career when we did The Rocketeer. But anyway, we could go on and on. I think oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say another big one's Mos Def.
Yes, Mos Def.
Like, I think Mos Def is
most definitely
become like a pretty well-known and pretty good actor, actually. I think a lot of the stuff I've seen him in, he's
a lot better than Common. Common is also in a lot of movies, and I don't think Common is good. I'm sorry, Common, but I don't. And then, as if Common is ever going to watch this, but I don't like Common that much.
And then we have Ice-T, who's now in Police Procedurals.
Oh, yeah.
And isn't Ice Cube... I know Ice Cube's son's an actor.
But O'Shea Jackson Jr.
O'Shea Jackson Jr. But is Ice Cube? I think Ice Cube acts too, right?
Yeah, he's in all the Friday movies.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He's in like the Are We There Yet or something something like that, or Are We Done Yet? Are we there yet? I don't know.
You have a lot of those hip hop artists, rappers that we kind of see parodied in
LL Cool J
and CB4 make that transition.
Yeah. Finally, skipping all these other names, I think a guy honestly, and I did not mention this. The last time we filmed an episode, I glossed over because I spent so much time talking about the Bond movies. But I actually recently rewatched Logan Lucky, which I think is a fun Soderbergh film.
I really like Logan
that
Lucky.
film. Yeah. And Dwight Yoakam is in that. And I think Dwight Yoakam is actually a really good actor. He plays the warden of the jail, that they're prison or whatever you want to call it, that they're in. But I think Dwight Yoakam, because in that movie particularly, he's just kind of a smart ass kind of warden, or whatever. But he's in Sling Blade. He's in Crank, right? He's in the Crank movies. He's like his doctor or something, or his lawyer. I can't even remember. It's been so long since I've seen the Crank movies. But I like Dwight Yoakam's music. I'm not a huge country guy, but I like Dwight Yoakam's country music, and I like Dwight Yoakam's acting. I think he's actually really good. He's a good musician turned actor. I guess he still does music, although I haven't listened to any of his stuff lately. But I think he does just fine as an actor. He's pretty good.
I think for me, like, top of the list, and say what you will about his acting ability, but I think Will Smith is probably the biggest standout.
Huge star.
Started out as Fresh Prince, with DJ Jazzy J. Parlayed that into the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which is a great sitcom, and then from there just became your action blockbuster star who can still open movies and still do great things. And he's probably like, I would say, the pinnacle. I mean, you can also do like Frank Sinatra and like Dean Martin, with a little bit of the ocean movies.
Yeah, I didn't
Sammy Davis Jr., who we saw in Moon Over Parador.
Yeah. And his crazy eyes. Yeah.
Crazy eyes. So it seems like it's not a hard step to go from, popular musician to actor. Now, whether some of them do it well, that's for you guys to say. But
a lot of them don't do it well. That's for sure. But anyway, that's our viewer question. That's those kind of some musicians turned actors / actresses who are good, bad, and ugly, and everything in between.
And if we left anything off, comment below if you're watching us on YouTube, or shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on air, I wonder why I keep on saying on air. I wonder if that's still pertinent with the internet age. But anyways,
on the air.
If you have a question you want us to answer, shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram. Do all that social media, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, because that actually does help. And stay tuned next time as we pull another rabbit out of our hat of shame, of movies of our list of shame. and we'll review another movie from our list of shame. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.